Let's do it.
Hey, I noticed that shiny ring right there. I mean, that's every Dynasty owner's like dream right there, to have the championship belt. Is like 5 years ago. We want the real deal, right? I mean, show that ring off for a second here. Let me see that again. There you go. Nice. Nothing better to me than talking about Dynasty fantasy football. And I always ask all my guests this. I'll start with Jeff, man. How many Dynasty leagues are you in? And just want you to know, you're among friends here. So there's no shame, no matter what the number, how big or small.
Right now, currently, the only Dynasty leagues I'm doing are all through Dynasty Owner. So right now, I'm actually up to 13. And that number might grow to 15 by the end of the summer. I can't make any promises.
Don't, like I said, it's hi. My name is Alan, and I'm a drafting and salary cap addict too. Don't worry about it, my friend. Don't worry about it. Tim, how about you, man? How many Dynasty leagues are you in right now?
I'm in 8. So I've pumped the brakes and not done as much as Jeff, but yeah, I'm in 8 leagues.
Okay, here it goes, guys. I'm sorry to say this. I'm in 29 right now. So, and the next step is for me to take my game to the next level and get into the Dynasty Owner format, which we're going to talk about here. But I just think it's important, like starting with Jeff, man, what do you think is, when you're starting from scratch, forget the format itself, what do you think in a just, let's call it, do you play super flex or mostly single quarterback?
Well, it's actually unique because it's single quarterback, but your bench also accounts for 25% of your weekly scoring. So you have to make a decision there too.
Okay. All right. And of course, it has to do with the salary cap and what you can hold in the real NFL salaries. But let's just talk in terms of one quarterback leagues. Again, just general for everyone.
Mainly one quarterback, yeah.
Right.
I did just dip my toes in the Superflex last weekend at the Fantasy Expo. So that'll be my first Superflex experience. But
all right,
mainly single quarterback.
Yeah, it definitely adds an interesting wrinkle, especially in redraft. But what do you think the best way, just from a structure standpoint, is the way to build a long, sustained Dynasty team that can compete every year?
Honestly, I really just try to acknowledge the scoring system. Just, from a Dynasty Owner standpoint, the scoring system benefits quarterbacks a lot. 6 points per passing touchdown. There's bonuses for yards. There's bonuses, So you got to understand the scoring system. And if you want to compete every year, you want to try to build your roster conducive to what that scoring system entails. So if there's bonuses for distance of touchdowns, let's say for wide receivers, Tyreek Hill might have a little bit more value than, Cooper Kupp, who, Cooper Kupp's an animal, but he's never going to go deep. In fact, I don't even think he had any passes over 50 yards last year. So, just understanding your scoring system like that and trying to remain competitive and really trying to field your team based around what the scoring system entails, I think is a really good start.
Tim, do you think structurally that the best long-lasting teams are wide receiver heavy teams, or do you think that they're more, let me get those young, robust running backs?
The trick, I think, is finding the balance between the two. We don't have the magic crystal ball to say, hey, who's going to be the wide receivers that are going to be productive for a long, long time. But there's many of them, and typically they're going to be productive longer than our running backs, right? But, if you hit on the right running back, then I think that's where you want to focus on. I think it's easier to find wide receivers. In Dynasty Owner, it's really, I think, easy to find some productive wide receivers, but they're expensive, like Jeff, you're in a lot of leagues on our platform, and you can find guys like Brandon Cooks out there in our free agent auction. It's just different, where I think in a traditional Dynasty league, like he's going to be 100% owned all the time. It's the salary that makes the difference. But yeah, I would say running back, but if it ends up being a player that's transient, that it's like, okay, I wish I would have gone wide receiver.
You've triggered a lot of people in the audience already. So, send all wide receiver truthers, send all the hate mail right to Tim at Dynasty Owner. And if you haven't guessed it yet, I'm here with Tim from Dynasty Owner, and of course Jeff, who won the big contest last year. And this podcast is sponsored by Dynasty Owner, as it has been all year. We've been talking about all year, and We're going to bring you through some Dynasty basic strategy stuff, some player takes, and then tell you why that everyone out there listening to this podcast and live stream should consider. And I know I'm going to go over to Dynasty Owner and take that game to the next level. Jeff, what was it about Dynasty Owner specifically in the format that made you go from just playing in traditional leagues, whether it was a snake or, auction, salary cap, whatever? And, people on this pod have heard me make the read. You want to take that game to the next level. What was that spark for you that made you want to take it to the next level?
So I transitioned from a normal redraft seasonal league I actually am a commissioner of my home league, but I transitioned that to a keeper league. And the natural transition from a keeper league, in my opinion, is to Dynasty, just kind of upping your level each time. And shout out to my brother for hardwiring the computer today and all the technology, but he actually pointed me in the direction of Dynasty Owner.
Yeah.
He discovered it and said it would probably be right up my alley. Going back to the early Madden days when Madden was actually a very good game, I really kind of took the reins as far as the management standpoint. I always liked the player salaries and, not really being able to hold on to players all you want and try to make moves. I trade like a demon. So like Dynasty was right up my alley. And once I dipped my toes in it, it was a natural fit for me. And so now I'm a complete addict. I'll just
you know what someone once told me about your game is that, if Dynasty is vanilla ice cream, you guys are like dipped in sprinkles with chocolate fudge and banana, like whatever toppings you like. It really adds that like just special flavor. And you can't go back to vanilla ice cream once you do this. It's a dangerous thing. So, Tim, how long have you had the company for? What was the bring me into like when you were in the garage thinking about this or on the toilet thinking, and it just came to you in the shower? How did the idea happen? How long has it been going on for?
Oh man. So the idea was really birthed about a decade ago and was finally implemented in 2019. And the reason why the idea was birthed was we saw that fantasy sports, before it was mainstream, I've been playing since 2000. I think Jeff's been playing 2004. Alan, you've been playing a long time. And so it just really became who could get to the waiver wire the fastest. And as things became mainstream with podcasts, TV shows, it used to be just magazines back in the day. That's all we had, right? And so it got, I think, easier, especially in redraft leagues. You like your sister-in-law, if you were in a family league, could win the league. And you're like,
I would say my grandma could just look at ADP and have a good draft and then just understand who to pick up next week on the waiver wire.
So we saw what dynasty leagues were trying to do, which was really reward the skilled player. And we said, there's something there. And we just felt like traditional startup drafts, redraft leagues, weren't actually mimicking the real general manager experience. And we said, dynasty leagues are doing better, but it doesn't consider the business side of sports. And that is a huge aspect of it, is the business side. And so we said, okay, how do we marry that? And Paul, who is majority owner of our business, he's the one that really had the wheels turning with these ideas. And so we implemented in 2019 with a beta season. And now the past few years, we've launched to the public, and it's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast. But yeah, I would say March on our platform is even more fun than a draft. For those people who love drafting, and you can always we have annual rookie drafts, so you get that. But then you also get free NFL free agency, where it's boring in a lot of leagues, even dynasty leagues. It's not on our platform. I mean, you were faced with decisions. We have our cap at 145 million this year. I was up to 197 million because of guys like DJ Moore getting a cap increase. Mike Williams was getting an increase. I had some unexpected. I had Lamar Jackson getting his 5th-year option exercised. So there was a whole bunch of things that happened to my team. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 40 million under the cap, and I got a month. We give people a month to get under the cap. And I ended up trading my way out of it. I only lost, I had Dalton Schultz that went up from his like minimal $1 million salary to his franchise of 10 million, his franchise tag of 10 million. So I had to trade out of it, and I think my team's better because of it. I ended up getting Justin Herbert and trading Matthew Stafford because he was going to be like 40 some million next year. So you get faced with big decisions that GMs are faced with. And if you are, like Jeff was saying, if you're a trade addict and you love trading, Dynasty Owner is the place to come play. So if you love Dynasty and you love trading and you want to be faced with hard decisions, but I don't want to say too hard though, Jeff. I think even the casual Dynasty player can play our game and play on our platform and have success, but it's definitely geared for the people who are skilled, who are really skilled in fantasy.
Does talk about the settings a little bit, Jeff. What are some of the favorite settings in Dynasty Owner that you like? What are is get everyone familiar with it? Is it PPR? Is there any sort of tight end boost or anything like that, or any bonuses? What are some of the things that stick out to you, or some of the most important details?
So there's no tight end premium. It is full PPR.
Which, by the way, I like. The tight end premium's gotten it's too hipster for. I like it sometimes, but now it's just gone out of control because it really does skew when you're talking about contracts too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is full PPR. The coolest thing that I like is the bench scoring. So you have to set your starting lineup every week, just like any other league, but you also have to set a bench lineup. And your bench lineup accounts for, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, 20% or 25%?
25%.
25% of your weekly score. So
it's almost, can I cut you in? It's almost like picking who's going to dress this week is what it is. And then you have your practice squad too. So you have your full roster of 30, but then you're deciding like who's going to dress this week. And, go ahead, Jeff.
So, but it basically makes more players on your team matter. And that's what I really like. You have a roster of up to 30 players. If you count the IR spots, you have a roster of up to 33 players. And so if you just have 8 or 9 of those players matter on a weekly basis, it's a lot harder to make decisions that way. Adding the bench scoring adds a new element to it because, for example, a player like, let's say last year, Mike Williams from the Chargers, there are some weeks that he would put up 8 points, but there are some weeks he put up 38 points.
Yeah, he's a volatile player.
Yeah. Correct. Volatile players are a little bit better, in my opinion, for your bench because if they have one of those rock bottom floor weeks, it doesn't affect your score too much. But if they have one of those game breaking ceiling weeks, it can propel you to those extra 4, 5, 6 points to put you over the top.
I just want to ask you a question, and you bring up an interesting strategy point. So again, I'm just going to use Jarvis Landry as the prototypical consistent player in his peak, right? I mean, well, now who knows with Jarvis Landry, but Jarvis Landry in his peak is a better start, whereas the Deshaun Jackson type, where he's a boomer bust every week, is a better bench because the bench scoring is a smaller portion, and it's almost like a best ball. You'll get those points if he booms, if he spikes, but you don't have to rely on his every week scoring. But also there's a little downside there too, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, just using your Jarvis Landry example, I would relate that to just Keenan Allen. I had a Justin Herbert stack last year with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen's fluctuates between that 15 and 20 mark every week pretty much. Whereas Mike Williams, you can have range of outcomes going from 5 to 40. And so you don't want to risk that volatility in your starting lineup. So you can put that volatility on your bench and benefit, from the spike weeks, but not have it kill you during the down weeks. Whereas someone like Jarvis Landry or Keenan Allen will get you that consistent 15 to 20 in your starting lineup, and you can kind of rely on them a little bit more throughout the season in your starting lineup versus your bench.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As you can already see, that this is for Dynasty players that they don't have to be like more sophisticated. They just have to be more engaged. And I think Dynasty players are engaged. Like the average player, the casual player right now that's just starting out is going from redraft to Dynasty more quickly than they had. I mean, the Dynasty boom is unbelievable. And what's funny is the Dynasty game has been around for so long, yet now it's gaining in popularity. Do you find that same thing right now, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've played in the Dynasty League for 12 years now. And outside of Dynasty Owner. And then we took those things of like, what's really hard, a rookie draft that isn't through email or something of that nature. And so we said, hey, we want to make sure that people can have it on their app, on their mobile phone, and have a really great rookie draft where you have 24-hour clock and be able to make leave the draft room, make trades, make cuts. So there's you can really shape your team, and it's really something we're proud about. But yeah, it's a lot of people gravitating to the Dynasty. We've even had people, our 2020 champion, Victor, it was his first time ever playing Dynasty. He had played many different redraft leagues and stuff. And so, and that was something we talked about. We started a champions podcast where Jeff, our 2021 champion, Victor, our 2020 champion, and Eddie Driscoll, our 2019 champion, get together each week and really just talk about Dynasty and Dynasty Owner, and help you in all your leagues, whether it's a Dynasty league on another platform or Dynasty Owner. And we've seen a lot of people gravitate to it. But yeah, even Victor, our 2020 champion, first time. And it's because people want to be active, like you said, Alan. And the thing is like, I've played in a Dynasty league for a long time, and it would go a little dark from, I would say, mid-January through maybe till rookie draft, right? The NFL rookie draft in April. Well, on Dynasty Owner, it doesn't go dark. People start shaping their rosters, getting ready and anticipating those free agent changes and the new contracts that kick in March. And then once those kick in, you have a whole month, like you are super busy from mid-March through April. And then before you know it, the rookie draft, NFL rookie drafts here, and now you're getting ready for the rookie draft. And then we know that summertime is when people typically would get out of the woodwork anyways and get really excited and for football. So we keep you engaged all year. Like, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And I'm already seeing a lot of questions come up in the chat. And I just want to, before we even get to those, because there's some of them really good chat questions here, I just want to let everybody know, we read this every week, but I'm going to explain to you what we're talking about here. We're talking about Dynasty Owner. And if you love fantasy sports and you're ready for a new challenge this year, Dynasty Owner is the new way to play fantasy football with real NFL salaries, adding strategy of running an actual franchise. Dynasty Owner provides a unique and challenging experience that will test your skills as an owner and a general manager. You have complete control over your team's future. You can build through the draft, make trades, sign free agents, manage your salary cap, and you can also create a dynasty of champions. Sign up now at dynastyowner.com. And I want everyone to use promo code ROTO5. That's ROTO5. And they're going to give you $5 off a team. What's the cost of entry? How does someone get in? What's the initial cost?
Yeah, and I actually have a better promo code just for today.
Everything I said, forget that. Okay, here we go.
Don't forget it. You did a great job, Alan. So we have Love of the Game leagues. First of all, that have no cash prize pools and that anybody can play anywhere.
Love of the Game. Got it.
And
that's a good way to get your feet wet a little bit, huh?
It's a great way to get your feet wet. It's $39 to play. I'm going to give you a promo code August that is going to give you some bonuses as well as $10 off. So use the promo code August. You'll get $10 off. And it'll be $29. And that way you can play internationally. Because one thing we found, Alan, there's people that want to play Dynasty Owner. I mean, just be in a Dynasty league in Australia or in Europe.
This is not new. By the way,
Israel.
You would think this is new. Like, this is news to some people, except for the people that listen to this podcast. They're in leagues. And the reason that 8-hour clocks have become so popular is because you're playing with someone in Germany or, like you said, Israel or wherever. Well, it is insane, the explosion and the popularity of the NFL.
Yeah, and that's what we found. And it's much harder in Germany to find 11 other friends to come play. And so in Dynasty Owner, because of the Chase for the Ring contest that Jeff is our 2021 champion, you try to win your league, but then also be the best on the platform. And if you're the highest scoring champion, you get the whole experience. Jeff can talk about that later. But because of that, we fit people from around the world. You can bring your friends, of course. And if you do bring your friends, you get $10 off. You get $10 back. So if you can use that promo code August, sign up, share your affiliate link. Your friend can use that promo code and get $10 off, but because they used your link, you get $10 cash as well. And then there's cash prize pools as well. I know I took a long time to answer that question. We have cash prize pools as well with a $50 entry. All the money goes into Team Stake. Team Stake pays it out at the end of the year. So cash prizes, both $600 cash prize pool and $1,200 cash prize pool as well. Or you can play for Love of the Game.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm sure people are going to go over there and check that out. So Jeff, so how do you determine a player's value? We had a question about that as far as like, especially the question specifically stated like, how do you compare their lifetime value to versus redraft, especially when they're in a contract year? Do you have to anticipate that this player is going to get paid? I mean, I'm just trying to think about right now, Lamar Jackson, right? I mean, his value is about to change dramatically in this format, isn't it?
So it's a little bit intricate when you're comparing just regular Dynasty to Dynasty Owner. So for Dynasty Owner specifically, let's use your Lamar Jackson example. Yeah. Age is on his side. You know, you definitely want to take age into consideration in pretty much any Dynasty league, including Dynasty Owner. His fifth-year option just kicked in, so his salary went from, I believe, a little less than $2 million to $23 million. So that jump, if he gets re-signed to an extension, now you're looking at probably close to $50 million per year for Lamar Jackson. However, I actually deem that as a positive, and I'll tell you why. Because Dynasty Owner's salary cap matches the NFL salary cap. So as the NFL salary cap goes up, Dynasty Owner's salary cap goes up. It's 70% of the real NFL cap. Mm-hmm. So as the NFL salary cap rises, so does Dynasty Owners. And now these quarterbacks or running backs or receivers on their long-term deals are locked in. They're locked in. So as your salary cap keeps rising, you don't have to worry about your player value or their salary rising with it. It stays the same. So for instance, Patrick Mahomes, he signed a 10-year extension, $45 million per year. You know you're going to have him at $45 million for the next 8, 9, 10 years.
Right, which is good.
It'll never change. So your salary cap keeps rising, but that quarterback is locked in.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-20s. You know, age is on his side. But to answer the question more specifically to just Dynasty in general, I think age is the number one thing you look for.
Yeah.
Also situation. You know, is this player attached to a quarterback like Mitchell Trubisky, or is this player attached to a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen? Yeah. So, for instance, Gabriel Davis in Dynasty might have a little bit more value than someone like Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson, just because of the quarterback that they're tied to for the longevity of their immediate future.
Agree with that.
Yeah. Tim, what do you think the biggest mistake that even experienced Dynasty players still make in 2022?
Man, that's a good one.
And while you're thinking it through, I could tell you what I think it is, and then you can go with it from there. Is that I think overvaluing youth and undervaluing proven veterans like a Mike Evans type.
So I agree with that. I was going to say in a long-time Dynasty league I had that I've been in, non-Dynasty Owner, we play on ESPN. I think having a guy like Drew Brees, I had Drew Brees for 8-9 years, and we give in that league 6 points per touchdown. The consistency that he was able to bring and health, staying healthy versus always trying to get the next rookie quarterback, really did well. Obviously, if you would have had Tom Brady, pick up on your point, would have been really well. The others is, I think, trying to chase a sleeper tight end versus having a really proven tight end as well. It's an advantage, even in a league that's not tight end premium. Yeah, it matters to have a guy like Travis Kelce or Gronk when he was in his healthy days, or non-retirement days, I should say. That was a huge advantage. To get
Gronk coming back, by the way? Are Dynasty Owner players dropping Gronk, or are they holding on to him for dear life still?
I dropped him because he's $8 million a year, right, in $145 million cap, and I dropped him and I said, I'm going to clear up some cap and get some guys. I want to get some rookies actually that weren't drafted in my rookie draft as depth, and I was pulling Jeff a little bit on who those guys should be. He's got all the secrets, and so I ended up cutting Gronk. Some people are keeping him, and some people believe he's coming back. We just were at the Fantasy Expo last weekend, and that was one of our discussion points. Is Chris, who's our marketing director, he's like, "Oh yeah, I think he's coming back. He just doesn't want to do training camp." But I'm not so sure. I think maybe he's just going to go do something fun, and he's pretty satisfied. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's better to, if you're going to cut him, just cut him now. If you believe he's going to come back, then you hold on. But there's still value in that roster spot, not just your $8 million on your cap, but that means you're not going to be able to pick up that next, Isaiah Pacheco or whoever. I mean, I know he got drafted in a lot of drafts, but whoever that waiver wire guy is now, the backup running back that just emerged on Pittsburgh, right? I mean, he probably wasn't drafted, and if you have Gronk sitting there clogging your bench, you can't pick up a guy like that. Let me switch back over, Jeff. Did you want to jump in there with the biggest mistake, Jeff?
Yeah.
Or do you want to add on
so
to it?
I just wanted to kind of add on to that. I really feel like this is a loophole that you can take advantage of in dynasty leagues. There are a lot of owners out there that value draft picks for the upcoming rookie draft in their weight in gold. And so if you have a cachet of or a cache of like a lot of draft picks, you can dangle them in the months of February and March. That's when I've seen that they're the most valuable to other players.
Right. You don't have to make the pick for the pick to be valuable.
It's currency. I use them like currency, Jeff.
Yeah.
And go buy players.
Yes.
And 23 firsts are like Bitcoin at its peak.
Right. So now this comes with a grain of salt because 2023 first round picks are, this draft should be really special. That's what everyone's expecting. But we allow people to trade picks up to 2 years in advance. So, for instance, 2025 first round picks, if you can dangle that pick for a proven commodity, I will do that all day long.
Right.
And, who knows? I don't know who's coming out in 2025 with NIL and, people can just go to college, go not to college. And, you don't know what's going on 2-3 years down the road. So if you can dangle something, an unproven commodity, this imaginary pick for something that is tangible and going to help you win a championship this year, I will do that all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really great point, especially like I said, there's so much hype on 23, and no matter how good the class is, it cannot deliver on what the perception is right now of those picks. And at this time, the Joe Burrow year, everyone was tanking for Tua, and then Joe Burrow has, the year that he had, and he emerges, and it happens every year. There's always going to be.
And Herbert was just overlooked.
Right.
Herbert was like on the back burner of both those teams. So
do we think this draft class in 2023 is going to be better than the draft class in 2021?
Go ahead. You can answer that, Jeff.
I mean, it's really tough. There should be a good, solid 3 to 4 quarterback prospects. You have Will Levis of Kentucky. You have Bryce Young of Alabama. And
CJ Stroud for
Ohio State. So, I know this is just me being against Ohio State bias here, but when's the last time an Ohio State quarterback did anything notable in the NFL?
How dare you be disrespectful to Justin Fields like this? I really don't like it. I wanted the Jets to take him. That's why I'm upset, But go ahead. I digress.
It's just intangible versus tangible. If you're trying to, and I would relate this to rosters that are rebuilding or competing. If you're trying to compete, I would be looking to move those draft picks to players or owners in my league that I know overvalue them, that will give me their weight in gold, basically, for this imaginary player that may or may not be available. And you don't even know what pick it's going to be. Right. Is it going to be a pick in the 1 through 4 range where you have the ability to draft one of those, difference-making quarterbacks? Or is it going to be in the 10 through 12 range where, you might get left with the short end of the stick as far as the projected draft class comes in? So
yeah, that's a great question. And I'll put this back over to Tim now and ask you this, is that I think that Jeff hit on such an important point, is that you're really, even though you're in a league of 12, I believe that you're only really competing with 8 people every year, because by week 4, 3 teams are already like, hey, I'm rebuilding. Who wants to buy my team? Absolutely. Right.
Yep.
And as we know, that's probably a non-optimal, everyone's like, oh, if you're not at the top, you should be at the bottom. I don't believe that. I believe that you can I call it DFS your way into the playoffs, and then who knows what happens, right? So
that's right.
Do you see that in Dynasty Owner too, that the edge is really just the grind?
Yeah, I think so. And I think some people focus too much on rebuilding, and
because it's fun, by the way,
it's fun, but I think you have a year window, and that's it. And if you're building beyond 1 year, you're going to miss that window. So I think it's like, if you were rebuilding, you got to tear it down quickly and build it right back up, to try to win next year. And, I don't think, I think some teams I'll see a mistake people make is like constant rebuilding. and they never become a playoff contender. And I think if you're in there, I think you should take advantage of those guys that are always wanting to rebuild, those 3-4 people that you said, like within the first 4 weeks. Make them your best friends, and they usually end up being in that same spot every year. Make them your best friends.
They leak value.
Leak value and get the pieces you need to get into the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. I mean, it really can. It's not always the team that ends up being the highest scoring team and, you know, the leader with the best regular season record that wins the championship every year.
Yep. So. All right, we're going to pause right here for a second, but when we come back from this quick break, I want to talk about a poll that we often reference here, which underlines what you guys were just talking about. We'll be back in just a minute. And we're back. Thanks to the podcast audience for sticking with us. I'm here with Tim from Dynasty Owner and last year's Dynasty Owner champion, Jeff, who won the whole prize. Look at him, so prideful. Show that ring off to the audience one more time, man. Look at that. I'm a little jealous. So does Dynasty Owner gives you that ring, right? You don't have to, that's part of the, okay, all right.
Yep.
Yep. And you wear that everywhere you go? You don't take it off even in the shower, I'm assuming?
Well, it was actually kind of funny. We were at the expo last week, and I was debating whether to leave it in the hotel room to go get breakfast. And nope. This isn't legal.
Dude, that's a real flex, because if you win in Dynasty Owner, I mean, that's like World Series of Poker level of victory right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not the kind of ring, Alan, that you would get off of. There's a lot of amazing sites out there that sell trophies and rings and things of that nature, but it's not a couple $100 ring. That ring's about $10,000.
Oh wow! So, yeah, so you can you could split someone's head with that thing, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. I got you. All right. So I was going to reference a poll that we talk about on this that was on Twitter maybe like a year and a half ago, and it shocked me and didn't shock me at the same time. They asked Dynasty players, what's your favorite part about Dynasty? And only 38% of people said winning. I mean, it was crazy. The other part was like trading. Really? The other part was like trading, collecting rookie picks. I mean, winning was the number one answer, 38%. But like that, I think, explains the mentality of Dynasty players. Yes, we all think we want to win, but the other, faced with the poll question, someone said, I like trading. I like collecting rookie picks. I like, rebuilding. So I think that really underscores where the edge is in fantasy football this year. We all go in with our shiny new, sexy rosters that we like, but I think, we talked a little bit before the break about leaking value. You can use those picks, like Jeff said, not to make rookie picks, which presumably, there's not always going to be a Jamar Chase, which shows himself in week one. It's sometimes those guys take time to develop. So who are some of the rookies this year, Jeff, that you think can be instant impact in what, people started off as saying it's a down year, but I like some of these guys.
Yeah, so I'm not going to name the obvious players like Breece Hall. I'm going to give you a couple guys that have paths to success. And number one is Romeo Dubs, however you like to pronounce it.
We call him Dobbs, Dubs on this thing because nobody knows. And we heard it's Dobbs, but nobody knows.
I like Dubs because you can get that little
Dubs, right.
So now his competition, he's playing with an MVP Hall of Fame level quarterback. So like I talked about before, who are these players attached to? So Romeo Dubs is attached to Aaron Rodgers. Now he has a clear path to targets also.
Yeah.
Look who he has to beat out. Allen Lazard, who's been a journeyman pretty much his entire career. Second fiddle to Devontae Adams. You have Sammy Watkins, who I think we can all agree has been pretty massively disappointing since his
over is like 4 games of health.
Right, exactly. And you have Randall Cobb, who's 33, 34 years old. So if this guy can come along and kind of supersede them during preseason training camp, earn Aaron Rodgers' trust, which we all know is a big thing. I think he has a path to week 7, week 8, week 9 range to really kind of vault himself into an every week wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3.
Are you totally out on Christian Watson, the wide receiver that they drafted way earlier than him?
Well, so Christian Watson is interesting because, yes, they have the invested draft capital in him, but at the same time, he missed a lot of training camp with an injury. He's just coming along in training camp. I would say he's probably their wide receiver 6 or 7 in Aaron Rodgers' pecking order right now. And then as far as players that are coming from that North Dakota State school, you have Trey Lance, who had to sit a year. You have Carson Wentz, who went through his growing pains his rookie year. And now you have Christian Watson.
I forgot Carson Wentz. That's a good point. Yeah.
And now you have Christian Watson, who is, that's a mainly predominantly running football school. They even made a point about how Trey Lance only had 100, 150 pass attempts his entire college career. So Christian Watson, running routes, inside routes, deep routes, in routes, things like that. It's going to take time for him to develop. I see him being more impactful year 2, and I see Romeo Doubs being more impactful year 1.
All right. I like that call a lot. And, he's getting some helium in rookie drafts, in traditional snake drafts. He was like a 4th round, dart throw. And now he's squarely in the 2nd round. At the end of the 2nd round, I saw, a draft of 1 where he went at the end of the 1st. I think that's a little aggressive given who you can get there. You don't want to pass on 1st round wide receiver draft pedigree for that. I'll throw the same question over to Tim. Is there somebody that you think is a very important rookie? And Jeff brings up a good point. We all know Breece Hall is going to be good, or at least get an opportunity to be good. So who's someone maybe that goes in that, after the top 5 or 6 guys that you think could have real rookie impact year 1 and then for a long time to come in Dynasty Owner?
Yeah. So one guy that was going at the end of our 1st round, and right about the bonus pick, actually. So we have a bonus pick on the platform. We want to make sure that people who don't make the playoffs
explain how that works.
We have a tournament. So we have a tournament, losers bracket tournament.
Toilet ball.
The bottom 6 will compete for a bonus pick, and it's the 13th pick into the 1st round. So he was going about anywhere between 11 and 13 pretty consistently, might have slipped into the 2nd round. But I think if we were redrafting a rookie draft today, he'd probably be in the top 5. We'll see if Jeff agrees, but I think it's George Pickens. I think for Pittsburgh, I think when we were doing our drafts in late May, into early June, he was going really, really late as a rookie. So if you play in a dynasty league and you got him towards the end of your 1st rounds or 2nd round, kudos to you. I think he's going to be pretty productive this year from the way it looks like in Pittsburgh in training camp so far.
Yeah, he's squarely. I mean, I would still take Chris Olave over him for his high floor, but I think George Pickens has put on a show this preseason and showed that. And I always say, like, if dynasty analysts and rankers are redoing their rankings, what you need to just do is tell yourself a story where George Pickens was the 20th overall pick. And if you can get into that mindset that he wasn't a 2nd round pick, because he was a 1st round talent by all, that you'll have an easier time ranking him. All right. Those are 2 really good picks there. This quarterback class, man, it's, one of them probably, I don't want to say probably, one of them should pop a little bit. It's Jeff, who do you think is going to be the first one to actually take a snap this year? And which one do you think, you have to take into account draft capital, right? But which one of them has a chance to actually be a starter in a Davis Mills sort of way?
So first one to take a snap, I'm going to put my money on Desmond Ridder for Atlanta, just because I think Arthur Smith's creative, and I can actually see an instance where Mariota and Ridder could be on the field at the same time. So the guy that has the highest ceiling for me is Malik Willis in Tennessee. He's competing against Ryan Tannehill, who's, he's an average quarterback, but, he's making a lot of money, and Willis has that rushing upside. And I know Kenny Pickett uses his legs. I relate him more to like a quarterback who can run, not a running quarterback.
Not like a proactive runner, more of like a tactical, situational scram. I got you. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I see Malik Willis as that kind of like poor man's Lamar Jackson type, where he can get you a steady floor if he does come in and start off, 15, 20 points and then have those spike weeks mixed in as well. But, if I had to guess which one's going to take the first snap, I'm actually going to probably put my money on Malik Willis for
the first snap.
Not the first snap, excuse me. The first start.
First start.
I put it on Malik Willis. If we're counting injury, I'd probably go Desmond Ridder, just because Mariota hasn't really been proven to be able to stay healthy throughout his course of his career. But all things considered, I'm going to take Malik Willis just because I can see an instance where Tannehill massively disappoints, towards the beginning of the season, and then the Titans maybe want to see what they got going forward on the quarterback.
So do you think that's fully dependent on them not being a playoff contender then, that if Tennessee struggles?
No, I don't. I can actually see an instance where, if they're 4-4, 5-3, But Tannehill is just massively underperforming that they could make that switch.
Yeah. By the way, you made an amazing point about the salaries. See, in Dynasty Owner, you're paying attention to all the salaries. And so we know, like, all right, here's what Tennessee's cap situation is and where they're going to try to improve their team. And we know that rookie salary is really cheap, and Tannehill is probably the most expensive quarterback in the way. Matt Ryan's moved on to the Colts. Mariota's not costing too much this year.
No, he's like a $8 or $12 million player.
And I think of like Kenny Pickett in the Pittsburgh situation. In the grand scheme of things, Rudolph and Trubisky aren't that expensive. And even in this situation in Carolina for like Matt Corral, Baker and Sam Darnold are both under that 5-year option of $18 million, and they're going to probably be free agents next year, unless Baker really does well this year. But so, Matt Corral could be something for next year. I think you were thinking about that, Jeff, in a discussion we had, right? Don't you like Matt Corral going in next year?
I do, just because Darnold and Baker Mayfield are on their last. They're both in their 5th-year option years, and they don't have anything guaranteed.
Yeah, right. And the only issue with Carolina is if they are bad, right? And either one, they could get a 3rd-round quarterback can get drafted over by a top 3 or 4 quarterback, but. Yes, Matt. It was a little disturbing that the Panthers didn't give him much action, Matt Corral, in the preseason. But it's only one game; we should see him here. I just checked Ryan Tannehill's contract. The only thing that's I guess it's not too prohibitive. Next year, if Tennessee were to walk away, it's an $18 million dead cap hit. That's not too bad if you have. But also, if there's nothing that says they have to get rid of him. If Malik Willis comes in and shows that he is the more dynamic playmaker that can help this team, he's on. Making hundreds of thousands of dollars, not even $1 million. You don't think about quarterback, your starter versus your backup. You think about your quarterback salary. So, and Malik Willis, people said that they didn't think that he looked good. I thought he looked amazing for fantasy football with the running, the sidearm throws. It was unbelievable here. Guys, before we go on, I just want to take a quick break here just to shout out our friends at Fantrax. And if there's something you wish your fantasy league had, features that are missing from your current league, bonus scoring, custom schedules, look no further. Our friends at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable platform in the industry. Join MLB All-Star Jock Peterson, who recently announced he's moving his team to Fantrax. Fantrax is excited to announce the game day giveaway, where they're going to fly you to a game and give you $6,000 towards expenses of that game. There's a reason why fantasy players, redraft players, make a permanent home for fantasy leagues at Fantrax, fantrax.com/RotoWire. Sign up today. Hey, if you won that contest, guys, what stadium would you want to go to? And if you got all expense paid. So you could pick any game, any stadium, any city, and you get flown over there first class. What would it be, Tim?
MLB, NFL, anything?
Football. It's got to be NFL.
It's got to be NFL. Which stadium?
Which game? And by the way, while he's thinking it through, Jeff, if you have I see you have a snap answer. Go ahead, spit it out, baby.
U.S. Bank Stadium, NFC Championship game, Minnesota Vikings at home. All I gotta say.
Nice. Okay.
I like. I'm really interested in the new Raider Stadium. It looks really
that was
amazing,
my pick.
That black hole. Yeah. I would be like, I want to go to the black hole.
Yeah, and it's also inside. I heard they have like a crazy like nightclub in there. I mean, maybe our nightclub days are past us a little bit here, but it still would be fun, right? It's like, it's so interesting. Very cool. All right, we had a couple of questions I thought wanted to be. So right here it says, Tim and Jeff, is there a site that you guys use or provide for future, it says for 2023 and 24 future year QB, wide receivers, and running back. So basically, it's how are you guys? What's your tools that you're using to evaluate futures? In the Devy sense.
We create some of our own content. First of all, we have.
And how do they find that?
We have a team of writers that do some research. One of them works for Dynasty Rewind, which is a podcast and site out there, and they really get into Devy, but also heavy into the rookies and watch film. And so Nate watches a lot of film, and then he also writes for us too. So especially helping you with getting ready for your rookie drafts and stuff. And so they're already starting to talk about 2023. I don't know about 2024 yet. There
Yeah.
might be some other stuff
People are
out
getting
there.
a little,
But
yeah, you should. Where do you go to scout middle school kids? I'm just kidding. I mean, that's where this is going, right? I mean, it's we always make a joke, because right now, if you play Dynasty, you used to be like one of the cool fantasy football kids. Now you're just, oh my God, you got to play Debbie in order to be a hipster now. So, all right. I want to get back to some Dynasty strategy and Dynasty questions for you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. What happens with a player like Antonio Gibson, who's just started the draft season as potential like redraft value of like a second rounder, and it's just like it's like throwing a brick off the Empire State Building. It's like the value has just gone down, 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 down. What do you do with a player like that if he's on your roster? Do you try to just sell before it drops even further, or do you wait till he has a good game? How do you handle a player like that in Dynasty Owner format?
Really, really tough to sell him in any format right now, just because what are you selling? There's no advantageous selling point there for him right now. You have Brian Robinson, who has a clear window opening for him to claim that first, second down, goal line, short line back duties. And the Antonio Gibson experiment might not work. He was a converted wide receiver out of Memphis. However, for Dynasty Owner, the risk is very minimal too, because he's only 1.2 million. You can stash him on your practice squad. You can wait until his value pops back up. If you have to cut him, it's very minimal. If you cut a player in Dynasty Owner, you have to pay 25% of their remaining salary. So
when you say pay it, I just want to interrupt you. When you say pay it, does that mean you just lose it off your cap, or do you actually have to pay additional funds into a pool?
So you start off with Dynasty dollars, $10 million Dynasty dollars for any startup league. And so the Dynasty dollars is the currency we use basically to claim free agents. If you have to take a hit for dropping a player, so that penalty I spoke about, that 25% of the remaining contract, that would come out of your Dynasty dollar currency. That you could have $1 million in Dynasty dollars, or you could purchase them and have 50 million. I know if you win your league, you get 100 million. So, it's basically will provide, that's good for me for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And also highest scorer in your league. In each individual league, it's $2 million Dynasty dollars per week. So,
and then what do you do with those Dynasty dollars, guys? Like, what are they? Could they be converted into what?
So you can bid. I'm sorry, Tim. Did you want to?
You can trade them. First of all, so if you want to go buy a draft pick from Jeff, you can do that.
Oh, so you can. I got you.
You can purchase an amnesty provision with them. And
what's that? What's an amnesty provision?
Amnesty provision is something that we took from the NBA. We actually, and it's one of our patents. We have 4 patents using salaries in fantasy sports. Actual NFL player or actual player salaries for any sport.
And you give an amnesty.
So we give everyone an amnesty, right? And you can buy an extra.
Right.
And so it's something similar to the NBA that I can get out of a contract. So say you ended up taking, Pat Mahomes at his $45 million per year, and you have him for the next 9 years. Year 4, year 5, you're just like, man, I am just way too handicapped with the salary. The production's not there anymore. He's 15th best quarterback. I don't think that'll be the case. He's amazing, but I'm just saying it gives you the opportunity to say, you know what, I can't trade him. Nobody wants to trade him. The cost to get rid of him is too much. Here you go. This is a cheap way to get out. Use your amnesty provision, or if you purchase one, and get out of that contract. Yeah, and it's basically get out of jail free card.
Yeah, like the old Monopoly adage.
Yeah.
All right, I got to ask you guys about a couple more players. It's in game theory of Dynasty Owner. Jeff, how are the quarterbacks valued in single quarterback leagues? Traditionally, I mean, in Superflex, you can't give enough. There's not a price that I would trade Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen for. I mean, obviously there is, but you'd have to come with something that's so not worth it. So how do single quarterbacks get moved around the board in Dynasty Owner format, single quarterback leagues?
So Dynasty Owner format, I'm about to give away one of my secrets here, and I hate it, but
well, that's what happens when you do content. You surrender. You surrender an edge a little bit, but we appreciate it.
No problem. I like to have 3 starting quarterbacks on my roster. Starting quarterbacks, not like Malik Willis that has potential to become one, but actually 3 set starters right now, 2 studs and 1 kind of placeholder.
One like Daniel Jones type of guy.
Davis Mills, Daniel Jones type, exactly. So I have a recipe for formula that won me the Chase for the Ring last year. And hey, I'm going to stick with what works. So like last year, I had Justin Herbert and Tom Brady as my 2 studs. And then I had, I actually traded for Lamar Jackson too. So I actually had 3 studs on that team. But most teams will have like Herbert, Brady, Davis Mills, or a Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Daniel Jones, something like that, where I have that practice squad starter just in case for bye weeks. I don't have to go out and make a trade or make an obnoxious waiver claim for a bye week, or if there's an injury that occurs. I have now 3 guys that I can plug and play, one on my starters. And, differentiating between your starters and your bench, since your bench counts 2, you really just play the matchup there. It's going to be very hard to bench Josh Allen in any matchup. Yeah. But, if you have Allen and Brady, you might have to make a decision there.
And I think you're right with that. And I saw one of the comments come in, quarterback hoarding. Yes, that's what Jeff does. He quarterback hoards.
Yeah, and then what's it called? And you talk about super flex. I'm the quarterback hoarder as well, but in this format, it does make sense to stack your stars.
6 points per touchdown,
right?
And because of the high cost of salaries, that's why we have points. High cost for quarterback salaries. So yeah, you got to hoard them.
And just to kind of end on that note, another thing that Dynasty Owner allows you to do with the 30-man roster, you can roster maybe 5-6 quarterbacks and still have a very balanced roster. Yes. So another method that I like to do is have high upside backups that are making less than $1 million. So for instance, Gardner Minshew, I believe his salary in Dynasty Owner is $675,000. It's like less than 1% of your cap. And if Jalen Hurts went down, he can be a top 12, top 15 quarterback. Tyler Huntley with Baltimore last year when Lamar Jackson
That's a good one.
He was putting up some really good numbers, and his salary is only $800,000. So if you have the roster room, guys like that, this year 1,000%. It would be Case Keenum, I believe, is the backup to Josh Allen right now.
Yep.
So that would be another one. His salary is a little bit more expensive, but
it's funny you say that. I've been rostering Case in my Josh Allen leagues too. I mean, nobody wants him. He's out there on the waiver wire because roster spots are so valuable. But should the unthinkable happen, you're going to be happy that you have even a replacement level quarterback in a great offense. So that's a really good call right there.
And you're talking about Dynasty when you're mentioning Case Keenum and Tyler Huntley on your podcast. Right?
Tyler Huntley got you through some lean times last year. You were starting him in single quarterback. I mean, he was a star. I just got one or two more questions for each of you, and then we'll wrap here. This has been great. I'm sure everyone is interested in Dynasty Owner. I want you to go over right now. If you want to check it out, you can go over to the site for free and just give it a look over. When you're done listening to this video stream or podcast, go to dynastyowner.com. Take a look around. They have a 90-second explainer video, which I think really does a great job of just telling you everything you need to know, and then you can get into the details. Use promo code August, and you'll get the $10 back. And what was some of the other little sweeteners for use promo code August?
Yeah, so use promo code August. You'll get $10 off. We give you bonus Dynasty dollars as well. And you share your affiliate link with a friend.
There you go.
And you'll get $10. They can use that promo code August as well to get $10 off. And the thing is, we make it really easy. You pick the league by the day that the time and day it's going to draft. We have drafts going through September 10th. So you can go in there and find a draft day and time that works for you. As soon as you get in the league, you can invite your friend to come in and join that specific league if you want, or friends. And of course, if you want a whole private league, special day and time that you don't see on the board, just email us, commish@dynastyowner.com. We'll help facilitate and just be your concierge for that. But, so to the point, Alan, like you might be thinking, I want to play. I don't have 11 other friends. It's really easy. We match you up with players from around the world, and you end up making friends. We end up making friends with people from all over the world that are just as diehard as all of us.
Dynasty players are more open to stranger danger. I think like the redraft, like, hey, let's do an office league with Bob from accounting. Like, that's for redraft players. We understand, but Dynasty players want to play with challenging and just other passionate players.
And here's the thing on why the comfort, the stranger danger part. You'll see that there's conflicts that happen even in leagues where you know each other. Remember the whole Tommy Pham situation in the summer, and he said Mike Trout. Who did he punch again?
It was We just had Jock Peterson, right? We just talked about it in the Fantrax read, right?
That's right. He punched Jock Peterson, and he said Mike Trout was the worst commissioner ever. Well, Dynasty Owner, we have a team of commissioners that commission all the leagues.
Right.
And that does not play in the league with you.
There's an absolute authority.
Play with you. So there's an absolute authority. We have a 17-page constitution that everyone abides by. Every league plays under the same rules, the same scoring, the same settings. Makes it really simple so that guess what? You can just focus on your team and making your team better. And should you ever need us in the mobile app, or in the desktop, you click contact commission, you can live chat with us.
That's a really great explanation of what it is. And I wanted to ask Jeff, you talked about like that you like to trade, right? What do you think is the best way to get a trade done structurally? I mean, so many people just offer you 3 garbage bench pieces for your stud, and we know that doesn't get it done, right? I mean, what's the best way to at least get your trade partner to at least send you a counter and what's your techniques for engaging a trade partner?
So first, understatement of the year, Alan. Thank you. That I like to trade.
He loves
it. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll take a look at what do I need? Look at my roster, kind of look where I'm deficient. Then I kind of look around other teams' rosters and say, I'm not looking at it from just my standpoint, because in my opinion, you have to give value to get value. So if I
have to win the trade every time, right? You understand, right?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And sometimes I'll even overpay purposely and admittedly for a player that I really, really believe in, that I really, really want. And if it takes me overpaying to get them, so be it. Let's do it.
Do you start? Go ahead,
a lot
Jeff.
of times, what I'll do is I'll look at other teams' rosters and I'll see what they need, and how do I have a surplus? If they need a quarterback, do I have 5 on my roster? If they need a starting running back that week, do I have 3 or 4 on my practice squad that aren't on my starters or my bench that I could offer them? So not just helping them out, but also getting my value in return as well. So I really think that that's like the opening steps. The people who really just that look at it from just their standpoint, like give me all your good players and I'll give you JD McKissick kind of thing. It's you're really not.
You traded me JD McKissick, by the way.
Well, who's a good player, by the way? I resent that you called him.
No. You just traded me.
Don't ask me why that was the first name out of my head. But.
I just want to underline something Jeff just said, is that thoughtful trading, looking at the other person's roster, just in basic sales. You don't want to say like, hey, this is what I could. What could I do for you? Is the question, right? Where do I have surplus that could help you? I remember getting a trade offer for like someone offered me Robert Tonyan, even. Like coming off that good year, and I had Travis Kelce, I had Darren Waller. I mean, I was loaded. I was like, why are you offering me this stuff? So I think that is the key right there. Start by looking at their roster, not necessarily, and see who you match up with. Yes, it does take a little more work to do that. Go ahead, Tim. You wanted to add on to that?
Yeah. Are you guys fans of doing blind trade offers?
Meaning?
First, like soliciting a bunch of blind trade offers? Because I know that some people love it. It's good to be in an active league. And then I know some people get annoyed by like ridiculous blind trade offers. And my strategy is, first of all, back in the show, we talked about identifying those 3-4 people that are always wanting to rebuild, make them their best friends, communicate with them, chat with them about things other than, especially even in a league where you're getting to know some people, chat with them about things other than trying to make a trade, communicate with them, actually be a friend, right? And then I like to ask them how they value players. And what are you looking to do with your team? And see if I can help them. And sometimes it's going and trading for a player on another team and then trading it to them. And so you're really like making yourself the go-to guy to trade with.
Right. Be friends with everybody.
You're friends with everybody. And I like to do that before then I start sending blind trade offers. But at least then they know, like, kind of like I'm on the page, like I know they like players, and then I start sending them some trade offers and we just facilitate the discussion from there. And then it's just like it's building trust. I think that's kind of the situation too.
That's it right there. You don't want to be the guy that calls out the bad trades in the chat and the a-hole, right? Because even though it was a horrible trade, like I saw today, Cooper Kupp traded in a dynasty league for something that just wasn't right. It was like Cortland Sutton in like a second round pick. It was like, and everyone was calling the guy a moron idiot. And I did what Tim just said. I said, listen, next time you have an offer like that, talk to me. I said, I said, oh yeah, good trade, man, good trade. But I was like, yeah, maybe a little. By next year, it'll balance out a little bit. And he's like,
which, by the way, people value
right there.
And I think there's nothing wrong with people valuing things different. For example, longtime dynasty league. I'm in Cleveland, and I played with several other people who were Browns fans, and I drafted Baker Mayfield in a rookie draft on purpose, and it didn't take me long. I think it was in year 2, so he had that pretty solid rookie year.
Oh, it was good. He was optimistic that year.
In year 2, I traded him for the 1-1, and I also
single quarterback league. I traded him for a 1-1, and I got Alvin Kamara, which was insane. Jeff, we need to get in that league. we need to get into that league. Yeah.
But by the way, the guy could defend himself, and I think that's okay. Like if you're in a league that's active, there's no collusion going on, or anything of that nature. And it's like, hey, I just think he thought Baker Mayfield was going to be Peyton Manning. That was it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry he's not, but.
So one rule that we put into my home dynasty league that protects against this kind of stuff is not, because we don't do trade vetoes. I think any dynasty purist would say, listen, there's no trade vetoes unless there's something like Pat Mahomes went for J.D. McKissick. Then we might have to talk, trade. But what we do is we give so a trade goes up on the board. Let's just use Cooper Kupp, like we said, for Cortland Sutton and a second round pick. Everyone else has 24 hours to match the trade. Right. The two owners that made the trade cannot change anything on their side. They can accept offers from the other 10 owners. And if they accept it, that's it. The deal's over. That's the one that goes up. So basically, we never really get anyone that comes over the top unless it just protects the studs from being egregiously undervalued. We've never had one happen, except I think one time we had like Boston Scott went for a 4th and then someone else paid a 3rd, like something marginal. But it's not a rule that would probably work well in a format like yours because of that. But it's a way to protect against maybe someone trade raping somebody. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, that's the situation. And we do have, I saw in the comment, we do have something for lopsided trades. Yeah, absolutely. We charge you Dynasty dollars if you want to vote no, because we hate that, like just people just voting no.
So you can vote against a
you can, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you Dynasty dollars if you just want to be the guy that votes no on every trade. But it does not cost anything to report collusion. If you have real evidence that there's collusion, and we let everything go through unless it was collusive or like way lopsided. Pat Mahomes for Gardner Minshew. We're gonna say, listen, this is a little pump the brakes here, situation.
I mean,
but the
thing in
Dynasty, not many. But the thing in Dynasty Owner is, because of salaries, you might not be able to keep a guy. You might have to try to get 50 cents on the dollar in March. Because that's better than just cutting a guy when his contract expires.
Same thing real NFL teams try to do. Like what's going on with Jimmy Garoppolo right now, right?
Yeah. So sometimes you wouldn't be surprised, Alan, if Jimmy Garoppolo got traded tomorrow for a 6th round pick. You'd be like, his value is way more than that. If he was in the draft right now, he's going to get drafted in the 2nd round or whatever. Which wouldn't be far off because Brandon Whedon was a 1st round pick and he was about that age, but for my Browns. Right. So I mean, that's realistic. Those kind of trades.
So there are protections in there. Hey guys, this was unbelievable. I think everyone watching right now is going to go over to Dynasty Owner. Hey, Jeff, tell everyone where they should follow you. I'm going to follow you on Twitter. I think that this was you're a smart Dynasty player. You don't mind interacting and talking Dynasty with people. So tell everyone where they can find you on social.
So on Twitter, my handle is at Jeff Rachlin, JEFF RACHLIN.
And it'll also be linked in the video description below.
And _FF. Jeff Rachlin _FF.
All right. Tim, tell everyone at Dynasty Owner on Twitter. Everyone should go to dynastyowner.com. Anybody else they want to tell everyone to go check out?
That's it. You can go check out our content as well. If you go to dynastyowner.com, the podcasts, we do our own content. Like if you want to be educated a little bit more, and we do it for those two reasons, to educate people and then understand some of the contract values. And we have two podcasts. We have a Dynasty Owner podcast, but then we have the Dynasty Champions podcast that you can go find, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify. Jeff happens to be on the Dynasty Champions podcast. So, yeah.
All right, guys, the more Dynasty content that I can consume, the better. So I've just added some to my appointment listening. All right, everybody, we'll be back next week. We're going to have a surprise guest on the Friday podcast. Going to be more Dynasty talk, a little bit of redraft, some best ball, but we're getting you ready. The season's almost here, everybody. All right, thanks for joining us and